welcome to another episode of Driscoll Decoded. My name is Angela, and I am your host for this podcast. For this episode, we are on location at a local elementary school here in Corpus Christi, Texas. So I'm really excited about this episode because not only is she an expert in her field, but she is also my family, my cousin. Everyone, welcome Melanie Padilla.
Hey everyone.
Thanks for coming onto the pod, and thanks for letting us use your classroom for a backdrop.
Of course.
So summer's about to end. As we're wrapping up, I know probably school is the first thing on your mind of how you're preparing for that. But before we jump right into it, tell me a bit more about you and how long you've been teaching.
So I graduated from TAMI CC in 2022. This is about to be my third year, all in kindergarten. I did my student teaching in fourth grade, so I really, really thought that my home was fourth grade, and I got this opportunity to be in kindergarten, and I fell in love with it. The littles are just adorable, and I love the content. So this will be my third year going into kindergarten, and I'm really excited.
Nice. What's your favorite part about being a kindergarten teacher?
The love, honestly, like they touch your heart, and they love you so much. All the time we laugh and they're like, Mom, but it comes natural, and really, when you think about it, I'm with them 8 hours a day, all day, just me and them. And so the bond that make, and they're learning them reach those goals is the best, to reach all of their academic goals, social emotional goals, because that's really important in this grade. Seeing that and just creating those bonds and memories and friendships that we have is great. So
that's awesome, because I know you, as a kindergarten teacher, you're like their final send-off before elementary school.
Yeah.
So I bet you really do see that progression from the first day all the way into graduation, kindergarten graduation.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the biggest things that I love about kindergarten is no matter what, from that day one all the way until that last day of school, we see so much growth. And I tell the parents on the first day, I tell them all of the things that they're going to learn and what's expected at the end, where they should be. So like, that's so much. Like, how are they going to learn all that? I'm like, you'll see.
Oh, that's exciting.
Here,
Oh my goodness. So we're in August, and I know everyone all around South Texas has different start dates for school. How are you preparing for that first day, or like that? Tell me what goes through your brain of the first week and then like the first month, and how you start preparing for that.
For sure, for my grade, and I know I'm sure this is something similar that all grade levels go through, is just creating that space, that safe space, along with procedures. Those are the main things that we work on those first couple of weeks before we jump into real learning. But we're still learning. We're learning and we're learning how to be a student. We're learning how to hold our pencil. We're learning all of those things that you think us as adults, like I know how to hold a pencil, I know how to sit in a chair, but whenever you have to think like a 5-year-old who's maybe never been to daycare, never been to school of any kind, they might not even have a brother or sister or a cousin, and they're by themselves. So being in a classroom with 18 other kids, we go through, starting day one, just how to sit and talk with neighbors, really
how to be social
in the correct way, because again, we don't know what kind of home lives they come from, and being social with your brother is a lot different from being social with a classmate. So we're just going over those rules and procedures and learning how to be a friend and social emotional things. And we do a lot of carpet time, a lot of songs and videos, just to get comfortable in the classroom, because it is a lot for a 5-year-old.
So, I can imagine. So the kids that come in for kindergarten, do they have to go through pre-K 3, 4, or sometimes it's like their first time going to school?
Sometimes it's their first time coming to school. Kindergarten is actually not required by Texas. I don't know if it's by other states, but it's not a requirement for Texas.
Okay.
Some students come, some they have their first time in first grade.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
No, they don't have to have any prior schooling.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of them, we see like they have never been in any kind of environment like a school.
Yeah.
We have to put those ideas in our heads because it's easy to think, yeah, they'll know how to sit down, all of the things, but a lot of the times they don't.
So when do you start preparing for school? I know, I mean, as teachers, I can only imagine the break you need, like during summer break, but when it's still kind of like an all year round thing because you're thinking, you know, first of all, how to do from last year better.
Exactly.
But also kind of meeting the requirements from your administration as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, we come back on contract the first week of August.
Okay.
I know for the district that I work at, it's a lot earlier than other districts, and we have a lot of professional development time, which I love because it kind of eases me to be back into working, you know. But for me personally, all through summer, I'm working slowly. I'm not working all day long, but I'm thinking, like you said, of things that I could do better and that could be better. I'm thinking of routines and procedures that I know like that didn't really work and I want to change it. And I see things, of course, like everyone else. I'm on teacher TikTok. So all of those things that I'm like, oh, I like that. I'm going to do that next year. And it takes time and planning and all of the things. So I already have things that I want to do and change and make better. So
I'm really excited for you. I know my daughter, she just finished her first year with pre-K 3.
Yeah.
And one thing we always said about what we've said since she's finished, that it takes a lot of heart and a lot of passion and patience for as kindergarten teachers.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they're between like 3 and 5, 6 years old. They're still some like learning for their first time of being away from their parents.
Yeah.
And just listening to another adult and an instruction. You have, and for you to like really see, like not see, but like for you to really say how much you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And already been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah.
That it's just, it's so heartwarming to know that. So since you are a kindergarten teacher, I know of a lot of the tips that you usually have are for the parents on how they can prep for their the upcoming school year. Yeah. So what would be some tips for parents that would also be tips for students that you have?
I think for sure one thing that we see, and this happens very early on, of course, 100% potty training.
Oh, yeah.
That's something, especially for the ones that didn't go to daycare, they didn't go to pre-K, and maybe they're good 95% of the time, but it's that 5% that, I mean, we cannot go and help them in any way. That's different from daycare. Daycare, they're able to help them. We cannot. So,
okay.
It's hard when they're in there. They're like, I need help.
Yeah.
And of course, we're like, I can't, babe. Like, please, like, you try. And so that's one thing that I think parents, they try their best. And of course, but whenever you're with them all the time, it's easy to maybe not see that they need a little bit more help just so that they won't have accidents, because it is embarrassing for them.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we see a lot of at the beginning of the year. And one thing that I do is I have all my parents bring extra change of clothes, and I just store them, because that's one thing that they are still small and they might hold it a little too long than what they think they can. And so I make sure that I have that, and that's something that I prepare for. But for sure, just practicing holding it. If a friend is in there, you might have to hold it for a little bit longer, or going whenever you have the urge instead of waiting till the last minute. Because they're used to just probably going whenever they want. Yeah, I'm just going to go to the restroom. Another thing that we see at the beginning of the year is lunch. Only 30 minutes by the time we sit down, 25 maybe.
Oh, wow.
And so having them, especially if they're bringing their lunch or even eating the school lunch, practicing eating in that short amount of time, because you can get distracted, chatting with your friend, chatting with your neighbor, and all of a sudden lunch is gone and somebody's pulling your tray and they're sad, they're hungry, you know? And so that's one thing that I would for sure practice with your student or your child, is to help them eat in that short amount of time. If they're bringing something, help them or try to practice opening their
Yeah.
things in their lunchbox, because we do have, of course, people in there helping. There's only so many compared to all of the students that need their milk open and need
Of
their
course,
things
yeah.
open, and that can not let them eat whenever they're
Yeah.
hungry, and by the end of the day their lunchbox is full because they didn't have time or they couldn't open something.
That's one thing that we ended the year with, was Alana still not eating everything that was in her lunchbox. So I do completely agree with that, especially going to this new year of just like practicing with her even more. Like, okay, you got 30 minutes, because at home,
Like,
you know, she's like,
you
oh, I'm gonna watch TV,
nibble and come back and nibble again, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and we feel bad, of course, that whenever a parent messages us or calls us and is like, hey, their lunchbox is full, and I'm like, that's my lunchtime too, so
Yeah.
I go in there and I can help
Really?
them. Yeah, but then I'm not in there with them to see why they didn't eat lunch. By the time I go back and pick them up, everything's put away. They're waiting for me to get them and bring them back. So,
oh man,
those are two things that I think are not things that parents think about at the beginning of the year. Like, you're thinking about school clothes, you're thinking about school supplies and all of those things, but those things make a difference, and everything else, like, we can mold and build and,
of course,
work on, but those things are hard to do without help or without preparation at the beginning.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I definitely see, like, especially with the potty training too. One thing we learned, like, oh yeah, Alana's potty trained. She knows when that she needs to go, but it was, we saw that, like, okay, like, girl, like, you need to finish. You need to finish your business, like, without my help.
Yeah.
So I definitely do recommend that for, like, parents. Potty training and lunchtime, those are the biggest things.
And they're just, those are both sensitive things. You want your student to eat. You want your student to be able to go to the restroom by themselves, or your child, because it's embarrassing, and and as for the food, you don't want them to be hungry. So those are my biggest things, especially being in kindergarten.
So what do you say about, like, parents, like, whether it's their first time, their children going into school for the first time or not, but, like, communication with parents? What do you recommend parents to do, or, like, how much communication? Like, if they don't hear from you, that's good, or, like, what would you say?
We have a app that we use, and we use it for our district, but it's an app open for anyone, and I'm sure a lot of other schools have their own app or maybe use the same thing. At Meet the Teacher, I have all my parents sign up, and that's my main mode of communication. So I'll post anything going on. I'll post pictures of the kids throughout the day. As for asking me or like inquiring about their student, I love it. Like, that just shows me that you're involved and you care, and you want your student to succeed. Because I'm gonna post, but if you're asking me more, like, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Like, no, I understand, because I felt like I was a bother to my teacher. She's such a sweetheart, and we're gonna miss her.
Yeah.
But I was that parent, like, how's Alana doing? Is she, like, how is she socially?
Yeah.
Just all those questions.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't know going in was, I mean, obviously she might sometimes be the only teacher in there with, like, 15 to 20 kids. So she's not going to respond back, you know, when I'm expecting. And sometimes probably not to the next day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just, like, fully understanding who their teacher is, and then how much they, just how busy y'all are throughout the day.
And that is one thing that I've had to deal with parents, is they come from pre-K where there's a para and then there's a teacher, and I think that can sometimes, like, have expectations for the parents that I am going to get back faster, or maybe post things sooner, and I remind them, this past year, my second year, that was one thing that I knew I needed to set an expectation for at the beginning of the year. These are my times that I will respond. My first year, I was so horrible about responding at any time of the night. Like, oh, you're going to message me at 10? Okay, I'll message you back.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just not good for me.
Exactly.
And so I've tried to set those expectations earlier. And also just if I feel like a parent maybe is frustrated by my response time, I try to remind, like, I do my best. I see it on my watch for sure. Like, if it's very pressing important, like, I will get back to you. But just know I always read it because I can read it, but I might not have time to respond at that moment. And then, yes, of course, sometimes I just forget. I'm doing a bunch of things, but I try to be mindful because it's your baby. And I understand that too. And I know it's worrisome sometimes and you want to respond. So
potty training, lunchtime, practicing 30-minute lunchtime, and communication, learning how to communicate with the teacher, but also like just like, getting to know the staff as well. I feel like that really helps. Especially like the more involved the parents are, whether that's just talking to them. Really, I thought like going to school, that being involved was like attending this, attending that, or donating that, donating this, but it's really just like forming, like taking that extra like 2 minutes to like form that connection with everybody.
How are you? How are you feeling today? Like those conversations mean so much to me, and I'm sure to like our front office staff too. Just a parent, like how is everything? How's the week? You know, that builds relationship, like just like with everyone else. So, yeah.
All right. So, despite what time, what day school may actually start for everyone, we all have those first day jitters.
Yes.
So first day jitters as for parents, for kids, you know, trusting the new teacher. Trusting just the school year of how everything's going to go. What do first day jitters look like at first for you, like as a teacher?
For me as a teacher, I mean, they're 5. It's really like count all the time. I'm counting them all the time. How many? How many do I have? Okay. I'm making name tags. Like your name. I first day I don't remember all of their names. Make sure your name tag's on. Just keeping them together. Really, at my grade level is like that's the most important thing. Keeping them together, making sure they all get home how they're supposed to on the bus, pick up. You know, those are the things that I'm like, please, like I need to make sure that happens, and and it always does. But it's those are your babies, and you know, you feel the anxiety that the parents have.
I don't know why, but that makes my heart so full because just hearing how it's not automatically just like, all right, so we're gonna learn this. Like it's literally like as equal as like how you feel like they're your babies.
They're my responsibility. Like just as much anxiety as you feel leaving them, we feel that and we understand that. So we want to make sure that the day goes as smooth as it can be. So that's something for me, that's my biggest worry. As soon as the door closes, all the parents leave, like this is
tears.
mine. This is
you get
mine.
tears
like,
with them too?
Yes. Like I this is where I feel comfortable. So when parents leave and it's just me and the kids, like I feel good. Like I'm not nervous, but when we're moving anywhere, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, and looking at all their names,
my goodness,
all of those things. So, but that's first day jitters for me. For the kids and for the parents, I'm sure it looks a lot different.
Yes. Our girl, oh my gosh, like the first day of school. I'm gonna put a video in here so y'all can see what I'm talking about. She was so happy, like, okay, you got her backpack, got her uniform on. And I was like, really trying not to cry, but like so sad inside. And we're like, bye. She's like, bye. Great. I feel like she had no idea what she was going into and like how long she would be away. And so like literally probably about a month into school, every morning she would cry.
Like it started late.
Yeah.
Now she's like, wait,
wait, where am I going again? I gotta go back.
Tricked me for a second, but
yes. And so and then like her, the teacher and the paras, I didn't know, but I knew some of them from like high school.
Yeah.
And so they sent me like photos of her like throughout the day. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Thank you so much. Like I'm still crying over here.
Yes, especially that's something that I can relate to as well, especially for the ones where at the door it's like, okay, you have to come on now.
Yeah.
Like they'll start saying, okay, parents, it's time to go, and I'm like, okay. And for a lot of students, as soon as mom leaves, done.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're
Yeah.
ready. They're ready to learn. So I'm like, okay, I'll send a picture so that they know, because I'm sure it hurts and you're feeling it all day, like, man, my baby's still crying at school. And a lot of them, they're not. Some of them, for the beginning, like I said, there's some that never been to school, so it is hard. And you'll be so surprised how many students in class will just take it upon themselves to be like, you're okay. Like, it's okay. Like, do you want to color? That's what we do. All for the whole first week of school, I just have coloring sheets and colors for them and play something educational, but something that they'll feel comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, another student will be like, we'll color together. And it's so...
I'm going to cry right now.
No,
I'm real emotional right now.
Like, you wouldn't think, and it's great because that's already building that classroom relationship that we want to have for the whole year. And we talk about that at the beginning of, like, I said that.
Zamari to the front office for dismissal. Zamari at front to the office for dismissal.
I set that expectation from the beginning. That's one of the things. We are a class family. Like, we love each other. We treat each other kindly. Like, we respect each other. We're nice to each other. We're kind. All of those things from the beginning. So, seeing them already taking that initiative, like, it's great to see, because I'm like, okay, good. Like, they can take care of each other, and which is what you really want. I won't be with them forever. And so, building that kind of emotion and social emotional and the students, that's going to last with them for a lifetime, and probably before they even came to me. They're just kind.
Yes.
You know?
So what would you say to mom and dad or grandma and grandpa whenever they're dropping them off, and it gets hard for them? Like, what would you say to them to kind of like ease their anxiety?
I feel like at Meet the Teacher, that's really my place to tell them first day of school it's bananas. And for me, I feel like I can relax, or not relax. I'm more on the ball than everybody else, because you have your one child to worry about. When you're coming in here, I already have 15 that just got dropped off. And so Meet the Teacher is where I have more time to kind of like, this is our schedule. And just, I think that helps parents a lot, knowing what we're doing and what we're going to do. It doesn't feel like, what am I leaving my child to? I don't know what you're going to do. Like, so doing that helps a lot. My class, we have PE first thing in the morning. So that's like, was another way for me to be like, we got to eat breakfast because we have to go to PE. And so they're like, okay, like, you know, to try to, and I'm like, I'll message. I send, for sure, on the first day of school, I sent a picture of each and every student working. Like, not smiling, but working in their group. And I think that helps a lot, seeing that they're able to be in a group and they're doing what they're supposed to, and that just eases nerves.
Yes. No, for sure. Even to this day, like, whenever school was in session, if I ever just got like a random picture of her doing something, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like at the top of the brain, like, worry anymore, but just seeing her that, like, okay, she's having a good day, you know, just still, it's just like leaving my child
there
at school.
Yeah.
No, I do have to say, like, I was that parent, like, oh my gosh, like, it's not going to get better. She's going to be crying. I had to, like, kind of like, what's that word? I had to bribe her, like, okay, you have a great day at school, and we'll go get a milkshake from Whataburger.
Yeah.
That was our thing. And then I realized, like, oh, like, she's not asking for that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's getting easier, and the tears are not as much. She'll whine a little bit, but it's so much easier now. And also, like, going back to what we said, like, I formed those connections with the ladies in the front for drop-off. So now they're like, oh, hi, Alana. Hi. And, like, she feels more at ease and everything, too.
Yeah.
So I really do, like, from my point of view, the advice I would give to parents would be to, do everything as we're saying, like form those connections, everything will literally be okay.
Yeah.
It will be okay. It might take a month and maybe 2 and maybe 3, but it will be okay.
We always say it's fine. It's gonna be fine. Everything's fine. That's what we tell each other, like as a joke, because if we're just like, it's gonna be fine. It's all gonna be okay. And I think, yeah, like you said, going back to making, relationships with other people, other staff. We have my district has a communities and schools person here, and she's like, she creates relationships, especially with students who have harder times coming to school, or like
Oh wow. So how does I'm not sure like how much you know, but like how does she do that? Like does she just recognize, like she points out from what she sees?
She can kind of see, and maybe like she's been in this district for I don't know how many years, but we have little brothers and big brothers, and so she knows the families. But more than that, we always feel comfortable being like, hey, just this one. If she sees one crying in the hallway, like, and just being so comforting to where people are like, we love her, and the kids, they love her, and they look for her face, and with our front office people as well, like they look for them because they're another person, part of their community, part of their school community, at least.
This is so comforting here because as a parent, you don't hear or you don't see any of this background. You don't see how the front staff interacts with children or anyone really.
It takes a village, like they say. Like it's all of us together, and truly, like I had a student last year. He loved the breakfast muffins. Obsessed with the breakfast muffins, and to the point where he will go in the line and he's like, can you ask them when we're having breakfast muffins again? I'm like,
boy.
You ask them, like ask them. So he's in line, when are we having muffins again? And he would ask and ask, and finally she's like, I muffins are tomorrow for you, like I did it for you. And he's like smiling, and I keep them in my fridge to have for him whenever he wants them. I keep them, save them for him. But like it takes all of us, and she didn't have to do that, and they don't have to do that, but they did it because he asked them for it. And now whenever he goes in there, morning, hi, like talking to them, because it's
just so comfortable.
Yeah, they're not just people serving lunch. Like now he has a relationship with them, and it makes him happy and probably excited to come to school because they took interest in him, and they didn't have to do that.
The amount of work, the amount of heart that, and just speaking from like elementary, because I know of course it's different for like middle school and high school, but like the first years of our children's academic lives, there's so much that goes into it, and what is kind of like behind everything is the heart that everyone has for it, and that's so relaxing and assuring to hear. And I'm so glad we're doing this episode, especially right before school, to help like calm nerves for our parents, for our guardians who are watching this, that even though things might sound and seem scary at this moment, that just reflecting on from last year, like everything will be okay. There's a village, like you said, that takes care of children. It's not just teachers. Oh my gosh, that's it. I'm trying so hard not to cry right now.
Yeah, it's all of us all together constantly, and it makes a difference because you never know who in our village is the one who's going to impact that student. It might not be me. It might be the person in the front that said good morning every day. And that's something that I know my school, and we really try, like in the hallway you say good morning. And those are things that, like, even if I'm maybe walking in the hallway on my phone and a student I don't know is like good morning. And that just, for one, social emotional again, builds that, because instead of just looking down, and we see that older students, they're just on their phone, they couldn't care less, but for our 5 and 6 and 7 year olds to be like good morning first, that's great. Like those are great manners to have, and it impacts students, little things that you wouldn't think.
Agreed. So I just thought of this right now. What are some tips that parents can do? I know school's about to start, but we can always have some tips of like after school, like how we can keep our kids progressing throughout the academic year.
I think having a routine, and I know it's hard because you have siblings, you have sports, you have all of the things, maybe different working schedules, and I see that often. But trying to create a routine, something very consistent for your student, they love, 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 love routines. And they love to know what's coming next. They love to know, like, if I'm off on a schedule, they're like, hey, we're supposed to be doing this right now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but we have to do this. They don't like it. They like knowing what to do next. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that, and that can carry into home life as well. We get home, we do homework, we eat, we play, we take a shower, we go to sleep. Like, they thrive off of that. And I think when students have consistency and routines like that, you see them happier and more well rested and ready to learn. One thing in college that we always learn is like there's a hierarchy of needs, and if a child comes in hungry or tired, they're not going to be ready to learn. Like, we can't expect that of them. They're tired or they're hungry. That's what you need first. And so it's hard, I know, with like sports and stuff. You might get home late, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, go take a shower, go to sleep. But students are most ready to learn whenever they get their sleep and have their routines. And
all right, so routine, setting whatever like
whatever works,
fits best for the family.
Yeah.
Okay, so setting routine. Do you have any other tips for like after school, how they can keep on growing in their academic life?
I think reading with your student, no matter what age, having that reading time helps. Just exposing, especially my students in kindergarten, exposing your kids to words.
Yeah.
Just letting them see words, putting the captions on your TV. Like, that's such an easy way for students to see words. They can't read them, but they're looking at them. They're there. Like, they're going to embed in their brain, if they're watching TV, they're watching their tablet, whatever it is. That's an easy way. Reading with your student. Above all, what I say, like in kindergarten, we send math and reading homework, but reading with them is more valuable to me than having like the paper done.
Oh, wow.
And it just creates that bond with your student that my mom cares about reading too.
Yeah.
And so that shows them that it's important. If they see you take any kind of, what's the word? Value.
Initiative.
What did you say? Initiative or value into their learning, then it's going to become important to them too. It's not just something that my teacher makes me do. My mom helps me with it. And if that's part of your routine to sit down and do 10 minutes of homework with your student, they're going to come to school like, this is important to my mom. This is important to me. So now
it changes their whole mindset.
Yeah, it changes their mindset. If nobody is working with them or taking any kind of interest in it, then they're not going to be interested in it because it's like, oh, that's just a school thing. So I see that a lot, especially with creating routines for after school, that doing homework together helps them. It might be hard. It might not always be done, but they'll know, and they feel that whenever you think something's important.
You know, because, like, you hear, like, as parents, like, we hear, like, okay, yeah, reading is important. You know, when you have a baby, make sure you're reading. But we don't understand, like, the grasp of how reading can really be, like, the foundation for everything.
Yeah.
And something that we might not see 3, 4, 5 years along.
Yeah.
So I really do understand that. And, like, I mean, also I'm sure, like, you don't have to, like, reading books, yes, but, like, if we're like on a tight schedule, maybe like making dinner, like, okay, what does this say right here? Or like
Reading
just
anything.
pointing literally anything
Signs out when you're walking, driving in your car, like, look, that's McDonald's. Those kinds of things are important, just as important for your student. And there's words everywhere, like you said. So especially in kindergarten, I feel like it's a partnership, me and the parents working together. they're 5, and a lot of them do take pride in their work, and they are like, I want to do this right for
Yeah.
themselves. But some are not intrinsically motivated. They need that external motivation, and
Mhm.
I can give some. I mean, we do prize box and all of those things, but it works best whenever the parent is a partner and we
Yeah.
can work together and figure out what works. I remember my first year, I had a student, and I couldn't get him motivated, and I knew he could do it. And so I asked the parents, like, what is he like? What are things that you guys do? And she's like, we love camping. I'm like, got it. I'll go and make a whole set of ABC camping themed flashcards. He loved them. He pulled them out
Yeah.
all the time to work on. And it's little things, and I'm willing to do the work. And so whenever it comes to academics and trying to get your student there, I'm always going to want to do whatever's best, whatever way I can.
Yeah.
So it's
It's really just like bringing it home, and
yeah.
as a parent, just like taking that initiative, reinforcing everything that you
Yeah.
taught them in that 8-hour day.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to be like. I mean, okay, correct me, because when we get home, we're
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
Everyone's tired, really.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's stuff to do. There's dinner to cook. There's homework to be done. Sports probably to be played.
Yeah.
Just still being positive about what they've learned and being interested and wanting to know what they learned that day, and maybe just doing like one lesson, whether it's like, okay, like sing me your ABCs or just something.
Yeah,
Just
tell me a sight word you learned today. Like
exactly.
those little things are so quick. You could do in the car. Like, these are your 3 new sight words. Tell me them.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell you them. You repeat me. They're quick.
Like, it doesn't have to actually be like
sit down
Exactly.
in 30 minutes, and
Mhm.
and especially for my grade, which I can only speak on it. It's a lot of ABCs, math. Like
Yeah.
those are things. Let's count. Let's
Yeah.
count in the car 1 to 10, and that helps. And again, like I said, just shows that your parents interested in your learning
exactly,
too,
and then they're
they love that.
excited,
Yeah.
and so that kind of like
Mhm.
transpires into them being excited.
Yeah.
I see it and I get it, and
Yeah.
I really do love your point of view with through all this, because with me, and I'm sure like with our viewers, it's
Yeah.
connecting the dots.
Yeah.
It's bringing like, okay, this is how.
My thought process, and it's hard for parents to see where I'm coming from sometimes, because they're thinking of it in a parent
Yeah.
lens, and I'm thinking of it like, I love your baby, and we're gonna make this great relationship, but I want them to make these goals that we have for them, because I know what's coming for them in the next grades and my goal is for them to be successful.
Exactly.
And so it's bringing both of those things together. I love your child, and I want your child to succeed, like
Mhm.
academically, as
Mhm.
well as being in a classroom, being a student. We want them to succeed academically as well. And I think for some parents, and this is something that I've had professional developments on, is like some parents didn't have a good time in school,
Yeah.
and that already puts a different lens on them of what they're thinking and how they see me and how they view the school.
Agreed.
And I try to be very mindful of that,
Mhm.
because it a lot of them, kindergarten, this might be their first kid
Yeah.
that they're sending to school. And so I try to be mindful, and I try to think of it in their perspective, because it's hard, and to think like that I don't have those kinds of intentions for their student. I try to let it be known, I love your child, I love your student, and I want them to be successful. Let's work together and
Mhm.
make them successful.
I love that, because like you mentioned goals, and I mean, I know like first like putting my daughter into school, like I was setting unrealistic goals.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But after the year that she's had, it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm so glad, you could pronounce your letters, like you could see them, you recognize them,
Yeah.
and you could say how they sound.
Yeah.
And just like setting just realistic goals of like what they're supposed to learn, how they can reach those goals.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, as parents, I feel like we're just always kind of thinking we're wanting the super best for our children, of course. And sometimes that can, if I'm being transparent and raw here, sometimes that could put us back because we're setting some unrealistic ones here. And that, how do I say it? That could be damaging to our children, but also in their learning experience as well. So as you mentioned, how it's really important, or you encourage parents to, you know, communicate with you to see how their children are doing, because as I'm sure, as I learned like this year too, they're not only learning ABCs and colors, they're learning how to be human, basically, how to be in
100%.
society. And so that comes with their own type of relationship building with their peers and everything like that. So can you touch a little bit more of what that looks like?
So in the very beginning, we're working hard on procedures, but also social emotional learning, which deals with how to be a friend, how to be kind, how to share. Those are things that a lot of them, it doesn't come naturally, and they don't know. So all of the things that, all of the feelings that we have, we try to work on those too. They're so small, and learning how to control their feelings and manage their feelings and react to things in an acceptable way. We're working on that all year long. It's hard. You're 5 and you have these big feelings, and they might come off as behaviors or negatively, and that's something that we try to teach them, coping skills, basically. I have a calm down corner in my room, and it has a bunch of poppets, and that's one thing that I tell them at the beginning, like, if you need time, you can go sit over there, poppets for like 5 minutes. I have a timer. They flip the timer. They go. They can do the poppets, and then they come back to class. It's just something that you don't think of, I'm sure, as a parent. Like, how does my child react to certain situations that they've never been in at home? They're never around 18 kids who they're not related to at home. And so that's one thing that I make sure that we go over, because I want them to be able to be in a class setting, be in a group with people. Those are skills that you have to learn all the way until you're in college, being in a group and being able to participate and effectively and acceptably.
I don't know, teacher.
Is that a word? I'm only in kindergarten. We don't know acceptable. What is
No, I get you. And you know what, because I don't know if I was just like a sensitive child, but I'm sure we all have had these moments where at school, especially like elementary, there were moments that I felt embarrassed. There were moments that I felt, you know, just all those like negative emotions. And that was one thing that I was thinking of when my girl went into pre-K 3 was, oh my gosh, I don't want her to feel that way. You know, if she doesn't want her hair a certain way, was it because someone told her something? Or, you know, just all these thoughts go out through my head. So I remember asking her teacher, like, how is she doing socially? Because there was this one moment that she came home and she said, she was just real down and out, but she was like, no one wanted to play with me at school. And I was like, felt so. It's hard to hear because one, you don't know. Two, it's like you can't do anything about it either. But also, what I've also learned that things could just be taken out of context a lot of the time with pre-K and kindergarten. But so it feels, it's nice to know. It's nice to hear also that they're just not learning, you know, like material. It's how they should react or how they could, or learn how to react in social situations and maneuvering through those feelings as well. Do you see like a lot, like throughout your day, do you see like a lot of, I don't want to say situations, but like, do you see like a lot of scenarios that like, where it only helps you like, okay, we do need to touch up on being kind to each other?
Yes. And so I make a class contract at the beginning of the year, and it's just like 5 things. I will listen, I will be kind, like things like that. And we talk about every single thing. I make it at the beginning of the year. They don't sign it because we're still working on names at that time, but they might do like a thumbprint or something. We come back January. I'm like, let's do it again, because that's whenever they probably need a refresh. It's been half of the year. They come back for spring break. let's do it again.
Mhm.
Because they need those reminders and they need those refreshers because they're small. And it, as much as I love to say we are a class family, by the end of the year we are a class family. Like
No.
they are
Wow.
bickering like
Oh.
siblings.
Oh, wow.
No, they are bickering like siblings, and it's funny to see because at the beginning of the year you think of like
They're
come
all
in,
strangers,
they're
yeah.
strangers, they're shy, but by the end, no, they're comfortable with each other,
Yeah.
which is great, but it's also like, no, we don't treat our family that way, and that's something that I always tell them, and it makes more sense, I think, to them when you say it that way. We don't treat our family like that. And I'll hear them say to each other, we're a family. And like,
Oh
it's
my
great
gosh.
to see because
Oh.
it sticks. So no matter how many times I think they might not be listening to me, they're listening.
Yeah.
They hear me. And so
I love that because it's so well-rounded, with
Yeah.
textbook, but also with doing, like, taking on literally the parent role and teaching them how to socially regulate and emotionally regulate. And it's because everything you're saying it's so surreal because we're here in your classroom.
Yeah.
We're at these small desks,
Yeah.
and I see all these small chairs, and it's like I see that, and it's so cute. And I really love how in kindergarten, we might not know, kindergarten and school really,
Yeah.
as we might not know what is up front and
Yeah.
what they're being taught hour by hour.
Yeah.
They're growing, and within a year, by the end of the year, they're a completely different person
Yeah.
for the good.
For the good. Yeah.
So I really love that.
Yeah.
So before we close, let me just say thank you for coming on to here because I feel like I really learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewer did as well, and I feel much more comfortable going into this school year. But before we go, is there any kind of word of advice or encouragement that you would want to say to our viewers if their kids are starting pre-K or starting kindergarten, their first day for the first time? Is there any kind of word of advice?
I would just say your babies are bigger than you think. They're going to do great. By that end of maybe the first month, they're already grown. Like they know what to do. My expectations for my students, I have them put their things away all by themselves. By the end of the first week, they got it down. Like they are bigger than you think, and they're capable of way more than you think. Like they're so smart and kind and loving, like I said, and they'll do great. And by the end of the year, you're not going to recognize them. They're going to be bigger, taller, smarter, kinder. Like it's crazy, and I know it's hard at the beginning of the year trying to let them go, but they are very, very capable. And as much as I know I have to teach them a lot of things, they surprise me. Every time I get a new bunch, I'm like, oh, wow, like, y'all could do this. Y'all are good. Y'all are good to go. So I think parents, they're so capable. And even I still have parents, hey, you're tying his shoe? I'm like, yes, he ties his shoe at home for me. I'm like, oh, and they trick me too. So I definitely understand how it can feel. I'm like, oh, well, he's been asking me to tie his shoe every single day. But I think they're so capable, and you're used to your baby and doing things for your baby, but when they come to school, they're with their other friends and they know they can do it. I'm going to do it too. So I think that's one thing that I would say.
Yes. Period.
Yeah.
And I just to add on to that, if you're coming in and your baby is starting school for the first time, everything she just said is 100% true.
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the beginning. I couldn't see that in the beginning. Everything is new. Everything is scary just for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that is so true. Everything that you spoke of, I have a whole. My daughter surprises me.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised of everything she's done, everything she's grown. That first picture they take, like
Yeah.
a school picture. I'm like, you were a baby
Yeah.
going
So
into school,
small.
and
Yeah.
look at you now, just a year. So trust your teachers. Of
Yeah.
course, form that communication, form that relationship with them. Be kind to the teachers and to the staff. As much as they understand how much we love them and how much we want them to succeed and to be taken care of, if anything, really,
Yes,
to be
yeah.
taken care of. I could promise you that from what I've seen just in the school system already, but also here with Melanie, that they are very much taken care of and they are grown.
Yes.
They have different sides of them. But this was amazing to have you
Thank
come
you
on
for
here.
having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
So, okay, if you like today's episode, please give it a thumbs up, share everything. A bunch of reels will be going on social media. Share those as well. But also, if you want to see more into elementary, because I know we just talked about pre-K and kindergarten. If you want to talk about more elementary, middle school, or high school, leave a comment below so we know what you're interested in. And we can hopefully connect with a middle school or high school teacher so we can get into their minds like we did here with Melanie.
Yes.
So thanks everybody for joining in, and thanks Melanie for coming onto the pod. I'll see y'all later. Bye.